Okay, I suppose it's time. I'm back. Still working on the Hero Forge commissions. Hopefully you guys are doing well. I'm doing pretty okay. Had a relatively easy day at work, but starting to get to that point where there's a lot of quitting me. We're getting really close to the end of the year, and everyone's just kind of winding down. So definitely feeling pretty low energy. But today, I'm gonna finish this guy. I think he's turning out pretty good. Not quite a perfect match to the photo, but I think I'm getting there. I'm going to go ahead and dry brush these colors back to a lighter gray, get some object source lighting in, do some more dry brushing on some other parts of him to bring out some more of the colors, and we'll see how it goes from there. Right now I need to get some dry brush now. First and foremost, he's going to get a bright silver dry brush to bring back out the metal bits. And once I'm done with him, I can get back to working on some of my other passion projects. So we'll see how that all gets going. Go ahead and get the silver back on him. I think, even though he is definitely a larger lad, I think I want to continue using the smaller dry brush to hopefully continue getting a really nice bright dry brush on him in all of the controlled spots that I wanted to have the bright dry brush. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Hopefully this is gonna be light enough. And would you look at that? It's good. So I'm just gonna hit it in some of the spaces where it's gonna need it. And hopefully it'll do a decent enough job of getting rid of some of the darkness that the wash gave him. And it looks like it's doing an okay job of all this. So that's how today is going to go. Brighten back up some of the spots that the wash dulled down, because it was an all over wash. Brighten up the highlights again on the leather, on the gold, and some other little bitty bobs, because that has been severely dulled by the dark wash I used. And then go from there. But I will say, I do definitely like how this model turned out. I was not expecting it to have this kind of, honestly, really nice look to it. Got a couple things I want to fix, but nothing too bad. I'll even go ahead and hit this on the edges to get some more of that lovely sheen. So, not all over. Just enough to make it have a nicer shine to it. Because I want these to look different than his skin, or not his skin, but like his skeletal armor. So that there's some nice color variety going on. You know what I mean? That too, just for funsies. And that should about do it. At least for that part. Now let's go ahead and get some gold in here. I think I want... Yeah, I want this gold. We're going to use it on his shackles. We're going to use it a little bit on the glaive. I think I even want to make it a little brighter using some of the buff. So I'm going to go ahead and do that as well. Just a little bit though. And hopefully that won't brighten it up too much, but it'll make it nice and bright so that I can get some good edge highlights from this dry brush. Oh, that's going to be way too... No, actually, that's going to be way too bright, but this will be fine because it is entirely meant to be more of an edge highlight than a surface one. So we're going to hit it with some of the bright spots, bring back out some of the color. Hopefully not have dulled it down too much. And yeah, that'll look fine. Just a little bit of lightness up at the high spots to get rid of some of the heavy staining that was caused by the wash. And there you go. Now we got the brightness back up. And even we're going to go ahead and hit it right here too, because I think this needs it as well. Just doing some baby touch-ups at this point. Maybe across that, little bit of that. Yeah, no, I think that's about as far as I'm going to go there. But the next thing he needs is the brown. The browns on him are right now way too dark because they have been washed down with a dark wash. So we're going to brighten them up a little bit with some more dry brushing on the edges. And hopefully if I do this properly, I'm not going to completely mess it up. Though I doubt that that's going to happen. And I don't know if you heard it in the mic, but my dog decided that was the time to start barking quite loudly. But I believe it was at someone who was passing by the house, because as far as he's concerned, everyone's just a friend that he hasn't met yet. So that's not going to do it. That's way too wet. So if he sees someone passing by, yeah, see, this is going to be a problem. This is way too wet and too bright. Let's go ahead and wash that off. I'll have to do something else here. Hit that with some water, ground that back down, and I'll have to fix that in a second. It's the one problem with dry brushing with the same brush is that it's definitely going to hold more moisture than you want it to. But that's fine, I suppose. Okay, yeah, I think this is just going to require some panel lining. So that's what I'm going to do. Take some of the brown. We're just going to go ahead. Just gently. Actually, you know what? He's too heavy. I think at this point, it's safe for me to go ahead and use the wet palette. So I think what we're going to do actually, if we're going to use a different brown, use a saddle brown. What's that? Oh, ew. My wife is on her way down to Durham with some friends. She's trapped in traffic. Definitely never the funnest thing in the world. I think that brown may do it a little better. But yeah, I might have to actually do some concentration stuff here, which I've honestly been trying not to do because this isn't really a high-profile, super expensive commission that's being done. This is really meant to be like a B-tier commission, so he wanted it to look nice, but he didn't need it to look like it was present or, display ready. So I'm gonna go ahead and lighten this up a little bit with some edge highlighting. And then hopefully that will spread and be okay. And when I hit it with a second edge highlight, it'll look even better. But right now, it's very, very subtle. Which is kind of what happens when you do a relatively dark color over a relatively dark color, right? But that's okay. Laying down the foundation for the next edge highlight. And same thing on the belt. You can actually see where it's kind of pooled on the belt, where the wash is pooled. Not quite what we want, but that's fine. But yeah, she's from Durham, and so now she's going back just to go to a convention that's kind of become like a yearly tradition for her, and she's going to meet up with some friends there that she hasn't really been able to physically see a lot. So I of course very strongly encourage this because she moved up here to be with me, and I don't really think it's super fair that she gets to meet all my friends and has to kind of hang out with them and can't really see her friends very much anymore. And it doesn't help that she works from home, so she doesn't exactly go out and socialize a lot anymore. So hopefully this will be a lot of fun for her. Okay, what else can I hit here before I switch to a slightly lighter color to really bring home the edge highlight? Because that's something that Hero Forge does really well. Almost to the point of frustration, because they do it a lot like Games Workshop does, oddly enough, where there is an edge highlight everywhere on the model, and it's almost to the point of obscenity because of how they do their texturing on their paint schemes. It's a bit much as far as I'm concerned, but that's purely my opinion. And so what that means is that if I want to replicate the color scheme, then I've basically got to do a whole lot of edge highlighting that I was kind of hoping to avoid by dry brushing. But unfortunately, the dry brush I was using turned out to just be a little too wet. And so it just made a huge mess just now. Hopefully, though, this will read, especially once I get the next lightness up on the belts and the like. Because if you notice, now that it's starting to dry, it's just kind of blending right in. That's kind of what I want. I want it to be a very subtle transition, not just brown to like white almost. And that's what it looks like is going to be the case. It looks like it's going to transition just nice. Because again, looking at the larger version of it, you got it right there, you can see that there's some very clear defined lines of edge highlighting all over the model, all over the leather on the model, and that looks great on there, but it tends to be very difficult to replicate, especially if you're not a good painter like me. As in, I'm not a good painter. So I've just got to be very gentle, use only the very flat of the brush on the edges to try and replicate, not replicate, but try and hit only the narrowest surface on the cuffs, on the edges. And what that'll do is it'll do a really, really nice job of differentiating the different parts of the glove from each other, because otherwise, if it's all one color, it all just kind of meshes in together, and it's not particularly attractive, which is not what you want when you're painting a miniature of this size, especially because it's not going to capture light the same way as, you know, a full-size mini or even as a smaller mini. So you've got to kind of show off the features yourselves. And it's very subtle, but what it'll do is it'll really make the miniature pop. And I feel like I'm explaining this to a bunch of people that already know this, if anyone watches, but it kind of is the case for beginner painters, is you really gotta learn the fundamentals before you can move on to some of the crazier stuff. Speaking of fundamentals, I follow a guy named Mavericks Paints, who is just an absolutely astounding painter. I want to give him all the credit in the world. His painting skills drop my jaw every time. He is a phenomenal painter. And I know he does a lot of shortcuts and little things to help make his paint job go easier. And I think it's bloody brilliant because he gets really, really good results without having to, well, I mean, he still goes through an ugly phase, but he gets really good results. And since he's still relatively new to the painting scene, he understands that not everyone is going to be able to do this very quickly. Not to say that other painting people aren't, but the way he kind of explains it is, hey, I've only been painting for X number of years. I think it's like 2 or 3. So these are the skills I learned to make this one technique look a lot more convincing. And so like just recently I watched a video of his where he talked about doing non-metallic metals, which I'm honestly still struggling with. And I need to give it another watch over, but it seemed to do a very good job of teaching you how to do good-looking non-metallic metals without having to be not having too in-depth an understanding of how they work. And so I'll have to give that a watch over, and I'll have to see if it's as good as it looked. Because what I found out about him is that he basically has had an incredible amount of time to practice. He didn't get into painting until he had a back injury as I think a firefighter that put him on disability. And you know, when you're a firefighter, you're a big strong guy and you're hardy and you're there to protect people, but when you suddenly are on disability, you kind of lose a little bit of sense of self because you're no longer that firefighter. And so unfortunately for him, the depression hit him pretty hard, but you know, completely understandable. And he apparently, while waiting for his wife to finish shopping one day, he went over to a Games Workshop and decided he was going to get to that. And so he's had this great story of like revival because it's helped him kind of rediscover his joy and in life and do a whole bunch of cool things with it. And he started just by posting some really, really neat stuff on like Reddit and whatnot. and that's moved more into him doing stuff on YouTube. And he immediately, to me, just looked like an expert painter. I remember watching his videos and being like, there's no way this guy is fresh to this. His stuff is just too immediately quality out of the box. But then I found out that no, he's been doing this for 2 years, but because of his situation, he's had a lot of time to really practice it. And it's like, that's awesome. Good for him. So it's definitely something to aspire to. It's something that I hope I can eventually get to. Okay. There we go. And again, I'm not going to go too heavy on the shading for this guy. He's not supposed to be heavily shaded. But I think that all of that lining did a really good job of kind of making the edges of his gauntlets pop a little more. So the next thing I need to do is figure out... Well, first, no, I remember how to do this. I need to make the light gray almost white on his back so I can kind of make that rise back out, because unfortunately when I hit it with the wash it kind of lost a lot of its luster. So I'm going to go ahead and make another light gray and dry brush that back on and see if I can get a similar color match, because right now it just kind of looks sloppy. It's very dirty, and for a minute I almost thought it was the metallic. So definitely got to change that. Let's mix up this white with this black Cracker Barrel paint that I got from Walmart, because that's what I used. And we're just going to gradually increase volume on there. This is way too dark. Get some more white on there. And I think after that, to be completely honest, the only other thing to do with him is his object source lighting coming from his the orb that he's pondering. So hopefully that won't be too difficult, because he's got some very complex lighting going on around his chest. And there's a couple ways for me to get there, so I'm kind of hemming and hawing about how I want to do it right now. Because honestly, I just don't know yet. Okay, so I've got this color now. It looks a lot darker than the color that I put on there, but if that's the case, I'll just use it as a base coat to get rid of the, get rid of this and we'll see. Well, that actually looks pretty okay. Yeah, I didn't need to wash this. It was perfectly fine beforehand. It's way too wet. There we go. So let's go ahead and just gently dollop this stuff on. And hopefully it'll end up looking okay after 1 or 2 layers. I'm probably going to need a couple layers to get this to really blend, otherwise the other color is going to shape right, or come right through. The worst part about this, show right through was the word I was looking for. The worst thing kind of about this is when I look at it on the palette, it is considerably darker than it's showing up on here, so that's why I was a little hesitant to put it on there to begin with. But right now, it's coming through pretty okay. Which is good. There goes the boy again. Another friend that he can't get to. Okay, that's good. Now the tough part is hitting all of this. I think for the sake of this, it might actually be better for me to not use a wash. I might have just wasted my time with that wash on his back, because it looks like it dried so unevenly. I don't think I like that look, so I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of the wash entirely. What I might do instead, which I think will get a similar reaction color-wise, is I think I'm just going to start adding some brighter highlights on him and on his cloak, and that will really differentiate the shadows from the bright spots, from the highlights on the mini, on the white, on the gray cloak, where otherwise I'd need something like a wash. So hopefully that will help make it look better. Now, one thing I'm doing, which is actually kind of a cardinal sin of mini painting, is I am most definitely putting it on thick. And that's honestly because I don't want a lot of this to show through. So it's unfortunately creating some weird streaky bits. So we're going to go ahead and go back over that. Go back over that. The rest of this looks like it needs a second to dry. So give me a second, I'll be right back. I'm going to grab a hair dryer and I'm just going to blow dry it myself. See, the beauty of the blow dryer is because it's fast. It'll definitely expose all the spots that were painted on thin. And then I can go back, give the entire thing a second coat, and hopefully that will also help even out the deep brush strokes that you were seeing. I don't know if you can even see them on this computer because of just how darn bright it is. Actually, to be honest, because of the brush strokes on this new, they're even more prominent. Oh no, don't want that. Okay, no, you don't want to be there. I love the idea of a robot wearing a cloak. Like, why? So he doesn't get cold. He's a robot. Well, I guess that is a little bit ignorant of me. This robot might have a core that's a little too close to the surface, and if it gets too cold, then its metabolism or its functions slow down. It's all about user lore, right? They can do whatever they want with these guys. They are their characters, and anything I say is just butt-kiss because I didn't make them and I'm not playing them. I have a weird relationship with D&D right now because D&D is awesome and I think it's a great thing to play, but I'm completely burnt out of personally playing D&D. I don't have much interest in it right now. I do kind of want to finish up a campaign I'm working on with some friends because they've been stuck in the Underdark for at least a year and a half now. In what in the game I think amounts to about a week's worth of time. So I kind of want to get them out of there, simply so that we can move on, and maybe that will help rekindle my interest in the D&D because I'll have a new story arc to go through. But I came to an unfortunate realization, and I think it's entirely just me, but it's that in general I don't really like hearing D&D stories, which is really weird because you'd think that's part of the fun of D&D is creating your own stories. But for some reason, I just find a lot of D&D stories to be deadly dull. Like, mortally dull. And I don't know why. I think it's just because, to me, the game boils down to, you know, I did clever thing, and then I rolled dice. I rolled a high enough number to do clever thing. And it's like, fine, that's great, that's awesome, and I'm glad you're having a lot of fun with it. But for some reason, it always just reads in my brain in that level of reductivism, which is not good, because it's not fair to the people who did clever thing, but it's just how my brain works. Come on. Because most of the time, clever thing is legitimately clever, but I don't know. Maybe it's just modern D&D, playing with modern, how some of my friends who I've been playing recently, that's really been getting to me. I don't find did bigger number thing very impressive anymore. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mix up this paint, this white, into this gray to hopefully lighten it up and slowly transition into brighter highlight, which will hopefully allow the back cloak to stand out a bit more, because right now it is looking chalky. My understanding about chalky paint jobs is that it's because there is not enough space for the paint to really breathe and show off transition between the lighter color and the darker color. And I kind of think mixing all of this in the same wet palette or the same palette square was a bad idea. This is going to be ugly. Nah, we're not doing that. Okay, never mind. This is just becoming a problem. There's going to be an incredibly thick layer of paint on these guys. And that's a little unfortunate. And I'm going to have to figure out a way to deal with this, because it just looks incredibly unprofessional. Are you the same brightness? You are the same brightness. This looks like the kind of glaze paint you put on a clay sculpture, or it goes in the kiln. It is showing through so chalky. Now, my understanding with chalkiness is that it is something that happens because you didn't transition well. You used too thick a layer of paint on a surface that definitely needed a little bit more smooth layering than what you're willing to give it. And I mean, I can clearly see this on the paint job. It's definitely the issue right here. The good news is I think I reached that level of bright whiteness I was going for. I just did it on the wrong layer. So that's going to look like that, I suppose. Gosh. Apple Barrel white paint sucks. Okay, another layer. Cover up how incredibly fuzzy that looks. I might have mentioned this yesterday, but I finished Sanctuary, and it was tremendous. I still kind of can't get over how good that show was for me, and how much I enjoyed it. So I hope if anyone watches it, and they enjoy it, or if anyone watches it, I hope they enjoy it. I love sumo culture. I was doing some proctoring for a standardized test today for my school, and I kind of had to resist the urge to just start doing Shiko because I was so bored. The kids were fine, everything was fine, but it meant I had a lot of free time as they all worked. So I was just kind of walking around, and at one point I wanted to be like, I'm going to do some leg squats. But I can't because you're supposed to be unobtrusive and non-distracting. And I think a teacher randomly breaking out into deep knee bends and leg squats would definitely count as incredibly obtrusive and distracting for a bunch of high schoolers. So I didn't do it. And there goes the boy again. My poor doggo is so lonely without me up there that he has resorted to barking at other people to try and get their attention. But I offered him a spot down here. I even was going to set up doggo cam and just let you guys see him as he chilled there. He decided that wasn't good enough. And he just went ahead and decided he wanted to go upstairs. And honestly, I wasn't going to stop him, so he did what he did. Okay, let's go ahead. Get this up here. That. Do some of that. I figure since I can't seem to get the darn blending down correctly, I'm just going to go ahead and shade the crap out of this. Or texture the crap out of it. That way it at least has some degree of, hey, this is the high spot on the model. And hopefully that will kind of ride through. I think I ought to do, honestly, is let's take some of that out. Put that in here. Rinse off the brush. Add a smidgen of water to it. And now I can do a bit of blending. It should make this a whole lot smoother. Never thought there'd be a day where I would be blending with apple barrel acrylics, but here I am. And honestly, yeah, that kind of worked. I can dig that. It's not great, but it definitely looks better than it did. So I think that's the route I'm gonna go for right now. Go ahead and do some of that. This nice and thin, as if it wasn't thin enough already. Like that again. I think that'll do it. Doesn't look bad. Okay, on to the object. Well, actually, first I'm going to clean this out because I left an incredible amount of apple barrel paint inside the well. So let's get that out. I think I'm at a point where my paint pot is becoming more paint than water. And so I'm going to have to change that at some point. But today is not that day. Actually, it might actually have to be that day. This is a lot of paint going into a very small amount of water in the well. Oh boy. Yep, this is what it's looking like so far. I wonder actually if I can use some of this as the border for his loincloth. Do like a quick dry brush. I'm gonna give that a shot because it is supposed to be more of a whiter color. Let me see if I can find it. I guess I should have panel lined the black too, but I think it'll be fine. Come on, turn all the way around. Let me see what you look like. Yeah, it is kind of a light gray, so maybe this will work. Maybe I can panel line this. Let's see if it'll let me panel line it, because right now this is a very, very wet gray. Actually, it's working pretty okay. So, hands down, one of my favorite things that I've seen so far on YouTube is that I obviously follow content creators who do the Warhams and do the miniature painting. And I've noticed on some of their videos they're using the same music I am, which tickled me tremendously because I know it's a fairly popular site called Pandemic, but I was very amused to see that, hey, you have the same music taste I do. You thought this was a good song too, didn't you? Clearly you did, or else you wouldn't have used it in your video. So I got to have that little vindication about my music tastes. Do just a little bit around here. A little bit more around there. And a little bit around there. That should do it. Okay, the next and kind of last thing on this guy is the object source lighting. Because the orb he's holding has like a blue energy radius coming out of it. And I'm not really sure how I'm going to go about doing that. Let's actually give me a second. I will be right back. I'm going to check out and see what the thing looks like on Hero Forge. Because Hero Forge, there goes the... darn, there goes the... hair dryer. Go back on there. Heroes. Where'd he go? Course at work. Admittedly, it's turning out pretty good, I think. So hopefully it will continue turning out pretty good, and I'll have a nice looking model to play with. Yo. Whoops, that's too much. So he's got kind of a powdery blue thing going on. He's got like a dark blue and a dull blue happening from this thing. Okay. So we're going to want a blue. We're going to want a pale green to get that nice turquoise. And this is where we're going to get into wet palette territory. I think. If not, I will gladly eat my words and go back to the dry palette. But here's some blue, maybe some white, some light gray. I'm not exactly sure yet. But I think we're gonna look at that thing. Actually, in a lot of this, it just looks like it's going to be blue, so it's going to be varying degrees of blue. I'm fine with that. Varying degrees of blue and white. So let's play with that a little bit first. First thing, though, is I also want a little bit of black in there so that I can do some of the darker colors that the blue is going to dress off of. everywhere else, I think, is just going to have to be object source lit. So we'll see how this goes. I'm a little scared, but I'm gonna do it. So first and foremost, put you in there, because the first blue in the little orb starts off very, very dark, and as it gets further away from the center, actually as it gets closer to the center, my mistake, it gets warmer or brighter in color. So that'll work for that. I think for the rest of this, I can probably go ahead and hit it with a blue wash, and that will allow it to get inside some of the recesses in there. So, God, you know what? I actually have a where did it go? I actually have a contrast paint that might work for this. Let's go with Talisar Blue. I think I can get the Talisar Blue in there, and that'll do a pretty decent job of agitating the heck out of it. Giving it a nice blue rim. Maybe. I don't know. We'll find out. This is not something I put in the wet palette. Or maybe I can. Let's put you on the wet palette. Let's add just a little bit of water to you, because I don't want this to be incredibly... There we go. I really don't want this to be very thick. I want it to be very runny. Oh, okay. I'm just going to accidentally make the perfect color that I was looking for. If that's how you want to play Talisar Blue, I'm game. Got kind of that turquoisey thing going on. Yeah, I'll play that game with you, Talisar Blue. I'll go ahead and be turquoisey. Oh wow, that actually ended up being really, really good. Thank you, Dana Howell, for giving me amazing suggestions that worked real good, real fast. Okay, let's go ahead and clean up the rest of that. Very nice, very nice, very nice. Some more there just to help it sit. Let's take some of that out, take some of that out. And I think, as I look at it, that part is... Yeah. Okay, so that's about what I want to do. Next thing, though, I want to do... That's enough of the Talisar Blue. That's all I needed. Fantastic. That worked out very well. Next, though, I'm going to need some of the regular blue to fit in the little black abyss I made. Comme ça. See? I'm going to do the same thing on the other side and hope I don't screw this up too badly. It's a little low, but let's hit it from another angle. There we go. That's about as good as it's going to get. I think what that means, though, is that if I mix the Talisar Blue in, I can make it just kind of run inside there and get him some nice definition with some object source lighting. Okay. Hit the center of the Talisar Blue, like so. Now he's got a slightly lighter core dead center. Yep, that worked out real nice. Okay, but yeah, the biggest problem right now is that a lot of those sections are supposed to be white, and I don't have a white to go along with it. But I think the Talisar Blue is light enough that if I were to, dry brush him a sky blue and then run the Talisar Blue under there, that might work. So that's what I'm going to do. Hey, Snowtwig, thanks. It's part of a commission piece for a friend. You can kind of see him over in the corner. He was made in Hero Forge, and right now I'm about to either make him look awesome or make him look terrible, because I'm going to try and replicate the object source lighting that the actual model has going on by dry brushing sky blue all over this part to give him that glow, and then running some contrast paint inside the in the greaves and the grooves on his chest to hopefully get a similar color, but I'm scared because object source lighting is difficult. So I'm going to go ahead and mix in quite a bit of very, very pale blue and hope that this doesn't ruin the color palette I've created for this guy. If you know what I mean. Here we go. Oh, thank goodness. No, it looks beautiful. So, just going to hit all of the spots down here, around his neck, on his chest, possibly on the robot too. There we go. And what I can do now is that, now that he's got that all on him, I can take some more of the watered down contrast paint and hopefully, carefully, run it into his chest cavity. Kind of like an ink wash. And hopefully that will show through. That looks remarkably good, given that I've never done this before. But yeah, these are large display-sized models. I was requested to blow them up as big as another one that I had done for him a long time ago for his friends. So that's kind of what I've done. Is he gave me the files via Hero Forge, and I've just been I made them much bigger, and now I'm just going through and trying to paint them as close to the original model as possible. And hopefully, it'll all turn out okay. I will say, watering down contrast paint is a remarkably good way to get, like, I don't even remember what it's called, like the ink lining that you can normally get with acrylic inks that I don't happen to have. Because that looks phenomenal. I'm really happy with how that turned out. Oh, he's got some on his arm too, so I can take some of this. No, I can't take that. Take some of this. And I'll just go ahead. See, there shouldn't be a shadow there. There should actually be a light. So what I think I'm going to need to do is really dry the crap out of the dry brush I was just using. Which seems to have worked. And then mix in some more of the dry brush color. Thank you. Given that this is the first time I've ever done it, I'm pretty proud of how that just turned out. I've done the lighting effects before, because dry brushing is a remarkably easy way to get really cool blended colors really quickly. But I've never done it on this scale. So I didn't really know what to expect, and right now it is exceeding expectations. So now we're going to go ahead and just take some of this and get it on there. And it's just enough to show that there's a blue glow coming from the device. And I think other than repainting his base black, he's done. He did everything I wanted him to. What would make a good dry brush? Makeup brushes. Cheap-ass makeup brushes that you can buy from any dollar store. I am a nerd, and so I bought some really special ones from Army Painter. They come in 3 different sizes, and they look like this. And so this is kind of what you're looking at, but I think altogether these were $20 US. And I probably spent a little too much on them. Artist Opus, who's a YouTuber, has ones that are like $80, and that just seems obscene. But I went on Amazon, and I bought like Best Op, I guess they're called, and they have dry brushes, and they're kind of the same thing. They're soft bristled, they absorb water really well, and they were considerably cheaper. So you can get like a dozen of them for $10. So like this is another dry brush that I have. I don't use it as often, but it works perfectly fine. It is also from Best Op. It's just lost its logo. So all of those make for great dry brushes, and they all work really well. I think I'm going to call this guy done before I try and do... No, I can't call him done. He's still got his eyes to look at. Okay. And also, it looks like the power core is reaching back into the back of his skull. So I think I'm going to do some of that first before I move on. But yeah, I like the ones that I have. They're pretty cool, but I don't know if I'd buy them again because I feel like I got just as good a response or reaction and service from the makeup brushes that I was using. It's just that now that I've spent the $20 on these, I feel like, you know, compelled to use them. So if I were you, I would just get the makeup brushes. They'll serve you perfectly fine. There we go. And now I got to do his eyes, because his eyes, oh my gosh, they're kind of terrifying to look at. In the picture that I'm looking at, his eyes are like wide open and he has pupils. So I'm going to make this smaller and I'm going to show you the horror of the thing I'm looking at right now. Let's see, window capture. Nope, not that one. Custom miniatures. There we go. And boom. That's what his eyes are supposed to look like. And I think they went a little too far there, because that's a lot of eye. That's a bit aggressive, isn't it? So I suppose I'm going to try and match that, which they did by making it looks like a pale blue. And this is where life sucks as a mini painter, is you've got to have A, the right brush, and B, enough like clear vision and wrist control to hit these spots perfectly. And unfortunately, I don't have that. So I'm going to try and get them as close as possible without him looking wall-eyed, which I think will be helped by the little irises that are going to be going in there. But oh gosh, that's upsetting to look at. I looked at it through the viewer screen that you're looking through, and that's a lot of eye all of a sudden. He goes from being just kind of black-eyed to being kind of terrifying. Okay, one more time. I'm gonna look at the other guy. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom. Yep, it's just 2 black dots in there, so I think I can definitely do that. And by think I can definitely do that, I mean I'm going to have to redo these eyes a few times, because this is legitimately not easy. And there is a perfect example. Okay. Oh dear. That eye was a traveling. Okay, that looks okay. No, it doesn't. That one's got to go. I made... Yeah, you're expecting General Grievous eyes, and you just got those bug-eyed lanterns, right? So the right eye did not turn out okay. It was wandering. It was definitely looking at the person to the right. So we're gonna try that again. I'm gonna see if I can use the hook on this brush to better navigate. And so far the answer is no. This is not a good. His eye is gonna continue looking in a strange direction. Okay, that's a little bit better. So, I will let you know right now, if you ever decide you want to do eyes, just don't. Eyes are difficult. Actually, that's not even the right color anymore. We're going to take some more of that, mix that in, take some more of that, mix that in. Nope, screwed it up entirely. Goodbye. You can go away now. We're gonna go ahead and paint over that black again. And I'm gonna try one more time. If you've ever seen memes about people trying to paint Warhammer or eyes on Warhammer models, especially the Space Marines, this is why. It's legitimately very difficult to have the right brush control and focus and blah 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 blah. I try, but it's a very difficult... I'm going to wait for that to dry. That might be why that turned out so crummy. It's definitely very difficult. But, right now he just kind of looks like a horrifying Cyclops, don't he? Take that out of the way. We don't need that there. But yeah, the next thing after this, because the rest of him turned out okay faster than I was expecting. The next thing to do with him is just go ahead and paint his now very shiny base black and seal him. And then I need to go back, and on the first guy I did, which was this druid right here, I need to put some flocking over the dirt so that it looks more natural and not like he just stopped in the middle of a dirt road. And to be honest, this guy I'm less happy about, but that's because he turned out very purple, and the actual model is more of like a really soft, gentle lilac. But I really don't know how to fix it. I don't want to spend more time on it because I've spent plenty. So I'm going to send the pictures to the client and see if he likes them. And if he likes them, then they're going to be good to go, and I'm just going to mail them out. Okay. Let's see if I can get this at a slightly better angle. Oh, you're already considerably brighter. There's this crazy tool that I saw Emil use on Squidmar, and it's like a microscope that is connected to an HD TV. So he could get these super high resolution shots of the mini while he was trying to paint the face and the eye on. And that just seemed like an obscene amount of money to spend. But it really showed just how derpy even some high quality faces could look. Okay, one of those is clearly bigger than the other. The good news is that on regular 40K models, the difference, they're so small that you really can't tell. So as long as your eyes aren't completely beyond the pale, they tend to look pretty good. Okay, again, this is a game of angles, and I am bad at geometry. That looks a little bit better. Hey, K-Former, how you doing? I am trying very, very feverishly to paint eyes on this robot so I can finish this darn commission and give it back to the individual who wanted it. I think that's gonna have to do. That's as close as I'm getting. I'm not getting any better. That's it. I did it. I'm done. I'm scared, but I think I got it. He looks like he's seen some shit, doesn't he? He looks like he's just seen the horror. And so, aka Former, so you can see, this is what I'm trying to mimic. This is from Hero Forge. So let's go ahead and give it a shot. 3, 2, 1, boom. Did I do an okay job? Does he look appropriately haunted like he does in the Hero Forge mini? I think I did an okay job. But that's very funny to me. Okay, I'm gonna set him down for a second so that I can go ahead and clean up my wet palette a little bit, and then I'm going to paint his base black. Even more haunted. Why are we here? That's a good question. What is my purpose? Your purpose is to stare at the glowing orb. Oh my god. So yeah, he's definitely got a thing going for him. But I mean, the model's cool. I really love the design and what they did with it, because it definitely tells a story. And that kind of visual language is something eyes remind me of the Hive from the game Kenshi. Ah, I think I know that game. Okay. I'm going to take back the dry palette, and I'm going to ruin it further by putting in a whole lot of black paint. Kenshi. I'm curious now, because I know was there a game called Kenshi the Blind Assassin? Or is it just Kenshi? It's just Kenshi. A free-roaming, squad-based RPG focusing on open-ended sandbox gameplay. I've never heard of it. Oh, wait, no, I have heard of this game. How do the eyes remind you of this? I'm curious. I need a screenshot, because so far, none of the Google art is telling me anything about it. Oh, the Hive. That's right. You said it was the... Oh, okay. I see it. I see it. Yeah, I get it. It's like they're perfectly spherical and boom. Whoops. Yeah, I definitely can see what you're talking about there. That's pretty fantastic. I approve of that comparison. Okay. So next thing to do, just kind of bug-eyed. Yeah, they really are, aren't they? The next thing I got to do for him though is really straightforward. It's literally just painting it black. Oh, I can't because I'm using my phone as a webcam. I can't answer the phone right now. I don't know if you guys are even hearing that, but my phone is going off because my wife is going to Durham right now, and I think she might be there. Yeah, she's probably there, but I'm streaming, so I can't take my phone down. I'll have to call her back later. But yeah, right now the next thing to do is to just go ahead and paint the entire base black like the Mini, and hope that it all turns out okay. And the good news is I'm using a really cheap black that's going to look fine no matter what I put it on. It's a lot more matte than the Games Workshop one, or even the other one I have, but it definitely looks pretty darn good. Like, it does the job, and that's all I really care about. Because unfortunately this guy got a lot of spray paint because I was unsure about how I was going to tack him. I at one point thought I was going to non-metallic metal the entire thing, and then I looked at the model again and went, that's really stupid. So I did not do that. And that's kind of where we are right now. Like, I'm okay at doing non-metallic metal, but if I were to try and do a model of this size entirely in non-metallic metal, it would probably look really bad. I'm not there yet, so I think I kind of called it where it needed to be called. Okay, that's gonna be fine. I'm gonna go ahead and hit this with a hairbrush or a hairdryer, and also there we go. I'll be right back to see if I can get this strip. I lay down on the floor and do another set of sit-ups and nothing. Didn't even manage to do one with how tired my belly is. So why are you trying to do sit-ups? And why is your belly so tired? Are you just doing crunches and whatnot to try and get in better shape? I mean, that makes sense, you know, tummy sore because made tummy sore. But what is the intention? Oh, you're training for physical test to join the prison guard. Understandable. I will let you know that like sit-ups are particularly not good for you, as I understand it. Don't take my word as gospel, but my understanding is that sit-ups are actually really bad for your lower back. If you have the opportunity, leg lifts are actually better if you're trying to train your lower abdominals. And crunches are better if you're trying to train your upper abdominals. So that could definitely be a thing to do. I think, because obviously I know things, you want to work a lot on your squats and your lunges. I know they're bad, but it's part of what you have to. Oh, so they have like a physical fitness test where they make sure that you can do enough of them? Because if so, I'm sorry. I can definitely get why it's not fun. You need to do like 60 in 2 minutes. That's pretty impressive. I wish I could do 60 sit-ups in 2 minutes. I used to be able to do it. Are you breaking them up into sets? Or are you just trying to do as many as you can until you're tired and then rest and then try and do as many as you can again? I am baby, which is really weird to think about because I used to train like a madman when I was doing the boxing. So 60 sit-ups in 2 minutes just seems like an insurmountable task in my brain. Try, darn you, try! Oh, my fingy. Wait, still not done. You are doing 30, 20, 20 with small breaks to still fit within the 2 minutes. I mean, that seems like as smart a way to go about it as any. So when do you actually have to take the physical aptitude test? Okay, so I think his base is done. He's good to go. He looks pretty darn good. I'll seal him later. But now I'm going to go back next Tuesday. Oof, alf, oof, my bones. That's a really short period of time to get that done, but sounds like you're pretty on your way. Rest a couple days, maybe? Let your body heal? I don't know. At this point, I'm just throwing advice out. I finished this other guy, and I'm actually really happy with how he turned out, because he looks remarkably close to his actual picture. So the fact that he turned out so good was definitely nice. Preparing myself for a longer time, of course. Yeah. No, I get you. Okay, I don't need all that black anymore, so you can go into the pool. Gosh, I need to get myself back in shape. That's been one of my things, is I've severely missed how fit I was when I was really training like a madman for boxing. Even if it didn't really come to a fight like it was eventually supposed to, because the one fight I was training for got canceled. And then I got into a relationship that took up a lot more time than I expected in terms of physical fitness time. And then I just kind of realized how much I love eating food more than I love training. What I fear most is running, because it's the last thing, and pretty much every exercise is taxing on the legs. That's fair enough, man. I guess they are trying to break you down to see how you fare when you're in like an emergency. Yeah, when I was doing the boxing, that's what we did at the end of the day, was we did wind sprints. And so we'd train for like 2 hours and then go up onto the track and do sprints. And what they would do is they would call out 15-second breaks for us to walk or jog, not stop, and then get us to run hard for a minute, and then do that over and over again to try and get our stamina up for boxing rounds. And I've never been a runner. I'm one of those kids that when we had to do the physical fitness test, I was lucky to pass the mile, simply because you couldn't time out. If you finished the mile, you passed, basically. It sounded cool at the time. It felt awful, but it definitely made me pretty intense. And I was really proud of how fit I was, because it was by far the most physically fit I'd ever been. But at the same time, it also made me miserable. Oh, I can't use you for water because you have a hole in you. Fiddle dee dee. I don't have a water container to fit PVA glue in, so I can glue on. Wait a minute. No, there's PVA glue in that thing. I can put the dark wash on the soil and then sprinkle. I can do that. Do I have a bowl? I'm sorry, I'm talking out loud to myself because I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to put the green flocking on that model. So what I'm going to do is I've got a dark wash that I can actually just put on here. And inside the dark wash is PVA glue. So I can do that, and then I can put flocking in here and just kind of stir him around and lift him out, and hopefully that will do the job. So I think that's what I'm going to do. The only problem is the dark wash is in a Tostitos can, and it smells like absolute shit because it's really old, and so it just smells like burnt hair. I think it's at this point chemically an abomination, and I'm going to do myself a lot of harm by doing this, but you know what? I'm trying it, I'm doing it. Let's see how badly I hurt myself here, guys. Okay, where is my grass flocking? Because I know I bought grass. Are you grass flocking? You are grass flocking. So I think is that's grass flocking? Are you grass flocking? You are grass flocking. We're gonna use some of the little stuff. I feel like an insane person because here I am talking about how I'm gonna put some grass on this, and I'm like, okay, so we got the chunky salsa medium Tostitos, and we got the Dermabliss for the antibacterial wipes for the dog face, and we got some garlic powder. And yeah, that's gonna make some nice flocking for a grass effect on the model. Yeah. So that's what's gonna happen. Give me a second, because I think what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna put him in here, get a whole bunch of it, and just start like sprinkling it on. And hopefully it'll work. The biggest thing about this is that I don't do this very often, so I'm still kind of antsy about it. And I suppose we'll see if this will do any good. Mix that up real nice so I can get all the PVA glue in there. Oh gosh, it's sealed very tight. Got it. Oh dear. I should have put on my respirator. Ugh. Okay. Oh god, it smells like my dog's farts. This was a bad idea, guys. We're gonna go ahead and put this horrible marsh stuff, wash stuff on here. And we're gonna try and lay it on fairly thick so that there's a lot of thinned PVA glue for the flocking to stick to. Oh man, I hate this stuff so much. Ugh. Now, I guess the good news is, since this is also PVA glue, it's going to act as a very, very solid sealant as well. I apologize if the camera is having a hard time focusing. I did this the dumbest way possible by throwing everything under the camera. Okay, you're sealed. I think what I want first is... no. I don't know how I want to do this. Take some of you. Sprinkle you on. Take some more of you. Sprinkle more of you on. Sprinkle more of it on. Take a lot of the excess off. Sprinkle more of it on. Shake a lot of the excess off. Shake a lot of the excess off. I'm sorry that this is going to be some of your guys' first introduction to basing. I'm learned. I'm not going to claim I'm not very good at this because I'm done with the self-deprecation. But this is something that is not really my strong suit right now. So I'm kind of learning as I'm going. Okay, give me some of the better fog. Actually, you know what? No, I think that'll just about do it. Maybe. Let's see. Let's see if any of this will stick on here. Because this is flat grass flocking. There's a way to make it stand up. I don't remember it. But there's a way to make this stuff stand up. So, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sprinkle it on here to add some variety. Sprinkle it on there to add some variety. And I think that's going to have to be it. And now we play the waiting game, where I just let this dry for a few days. And so, I guess, there we go. Now he's got grasslands on there. And I'll just go ahead and hit the rest of this with like a black cover so that it looks like it's black bordered. And hopefully this will read enough as grass flocking. I don't know. It's worth a shot. So we'll see how that goes. That's done. If I did that correctly, then that means I'm done with these guys and I can finally get paid. Which is really nice because they're giving us pretty good money to do this. Get some more black in here. Not as much because I don't need it. Hopefully you're not filled, but we're going to take this. And we're just going to go ahead. I really do hope that by watching me kind of you prefer to cover bases or leave them blank. I prefer to cover them. Simply because it adds a lot of dimension and depth to the model and just makes it more visually interesting. When I first started playing Warhammer, I was like, why bother? They're game pieces. They're supposed to look like game pieces. And plus, by basing them, you're kind of limiting where you can put them without it looking silly. Because if you base them like they're on Mars and then you put them, in a city, they're going to look stupid because they've got Mars basing and they're in a city. But the more I started seeing other people's miniature paint jobs, I started realizing that it looks really, really cool, for one. And for two, especially if you're trying to go for more artistic expression, which is kind of where I'm leaning, it tells a better story. Because if you don't base them, then they're just a game piece, right? And that's fine. If that's all you want out of them, then that's perfectly okay. You should never feel obligated to do anything with your model unless you personally want to, right? But if you don't base them, then they're kind of just a game piece and they look like a little toy. But if you're really trying to make them look like a miniature scene, you know, with hence the name miniature, then having that basing, having that terrain really helps tell the story that you are getting a miniature, you know, life story. A moment. I probably did it dumb, but we're gonna find out.
I'm hitting it with the hairdryer because I realize I can't set this back down until the base dries, but I just put some loose flocking on it, so I might accidentally blow all the flocking off of it, and that would make me feel foolish.
So yeah, I'm not going to try and dry the rim on that because I don't want to blow off all the flocking I just put on there. But, I mean, you can see, just, I don't want to call it better, but just how much more life this model has now because he's not just sitting in, like, a brown platform. I worry you're going to ruin the model by covering with basing. Well, here's the cool thing. The way I did it was stupid. You really shouldn't base your models the way I did them. So, don't follow my lead on that one. What people will typically do, like this is a 3D printed base, right? So I went ahead and colored it or like painted it and weathered it and made it look as decent as I could. And then what you typically do is you'll paint the model by like drilling a hole in his foot and just holding on to him. And then you'll kind of pin him onto the base so that you don't have to worry about him falling off. I am what you call lazy and impatient. So I like seeing the model as a whole so I can just be like, look at this cool model I put together. But that does make basing it infinitely harder because now you've got to kind of work around the finished model and hope that you don't, like you said, ruin it. Trying to think of an example. Like this lady right here. I'm going to struggle because she has both her feet there. She has her coat there. This bird is carrying the scroll in front of her. And so putting basing down on this is going to be absolutely miserable. What I realistically should do is use a thin knife and pop these guys off, put the basing down, and then pin holes into her feet, which then will come out of the bottom of the base, and then I can pin her onto the basing. There's some really good videos of people doing really, really cool basing that way. And I don't know if I have any saved, but if I do, I'm going to risk the copyright strike by going on the Instagram and viewing that video. So if you give me a second, because some people do some amazing art, and like I said, this is purely artistic. You really shouldn't feel obligated to do this. We're having a problem playing the video. Is it why? Please don't have a problem playing the video. Just play. There we go. Okay. So, this is a Sister of Battle. So this is from the Battle Sisters unit, and they're some of my favorite models because they're literally nuns with guns, but they got away from kind of the fetishistic part of that and turned them into legitimately badass women, and I think that's really cool. I did a really rough dry brush on her, and it kind of doesn't look that great, but you know, it definitely shows you all the model or all of the detail in the model. If you give me a second, I've got some painted ones that I can show you. Like, here's one with a heavy bolter. These are actually some of my earlier paint jobs, so they're not that great. If you feel the need to go to bed, AK Former, then yeah, you should probably go to bed. Like, not to bully you into it. And you see, I didn't do a very good job basing because I used ground up coffee, and you can see where it's kind of gathering under her foot because I did it dumb. But I love these models so much. I'm gonna probably strip and repaint them all just because I like them so much. But give me a second. Let me find the video. Let me find the video that I'm trying to show. Boom. Okay. So using cork bark. Watch what this guy goes through. This is a silver lining miniature rep. And he goes through this whole process to use cork bark. And because he does this quickly, I can show it to you quickly, but this is probably going to get me copyright struck. And you saw what it did, right? It looks fantastic. Okay, have a good evening, aka Former. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for showing up. I do appreciate it. So basing can be used for the artistry of it, or it can be used to just make your models look a little more interesting. Like what do I have a good one that I can show you? Oh, I know what I can do. Let's see. All we need to do is not report it, right? Who knows? Nice to see you, dude. Subsisters. Hey, much from Motorhead. How's it going? And yeah, I guess so. Please don't. I'm not making any money off of this, but these are old models, Mr. Motorhead. I did these a long time ago, but my paint jobs on them aren't great, so I kind of want to redo them and make them gorgeous. So eventually I will do that, but right now I just finished a commission piece, which I now need to take some pictures of. I just finished this guy, which is why I'm under as D&D instead of Warhammer today. And the one I just finished working on was this guy, who actually, now that I look at him, I'm pretty darn proud of how he turned out. And this one right here. And so I'm going to send pictures to the client and see if he likes them. And if he does, then I can get them all packaged up and mailed off. So that's what I've been working on. Give me a second. Sorry, guys. I got an interruption. But yeah, beyond that, I've been working on a couple of other things. I've had this project that I've been doing for a bit, where I've been trying to turn this in, what is it called, Invader ATV, into the Puma from Red vs. Blue. So I need to get back to finishing that. And that's one thing that I'm working on. And then I've got the Leagues of Votan that I've been painting in like a pride color scheme. Evening, Red, how's it going? And so I've been working on this guy, and this morning I got some subtle shading done so you can see that he's not just entirely black, he's got some lighter blue highlights, and I plan on continuing doing that. And then I've got to finish my Custodes that I still have not finished because non-metallic metal is hard. Yeah. And then I've got a squad of Escher gang that I haven't even started. They're all assembled and primed, and that's as far as I got. But let me see. I know. Yeah, here's a pretty good example of wife made some chili. That sounds delicious. Mine made something that she lovingly calls chicken goop, but it's like chicken tetrazzini, which is, you know, a bechamel sauce, some vegetables, some cheese, some chicken, and some pasta. It's very good. But so to go back, this one has very, very minimal basing, even though he's really well painted. And so the model is fine. It looks okay. There's a little bit of goop on him and a little bit of terrain paste, but it is what it is. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but it's definitely not bad, right? This one they put just minimal more effort in just by adding some plants around him, and even that's enough to add just a little bit more context, a little bit more flavor to the guy. So a little more substance. So that's generally why people do basing, is they just want to give their models that extra little bit of pizzazz that otherwise they wouldn't have. Okay, so done with those guys. What am I gonna do next? Honestly, I think I should go ahead and finish this. I've been kind of putting it off for so long. I should give it a shot. So, by the way, are you guys getting like the 30-second ads when you hop on? Because I hope to God not. I turned them off. I turned them off as best I could. I don't know if they're actually still there. I really hope not. I hope there's no ads in the middle of this thing. I'm not making any money off of this, so I don't want there to be ads. Unless I start making money, then I'll think about it, but ads are stupid and I hate them. Okay, so what I think is going to happen now that he's gotten some of his Now that these guys have both just got one when you refreshed, ugh, I'm really sorry. I hate them and I don't want them to be there. I think those are not my choice though. I think the ads for when you first view the page, it makes you watch them. And I unfortunately can't do anything about that. But what I think I'm going to do is for the eyes, to get the Master Chief look, I'm going to actually make the eyes proper gold, like Master Chief's visor. But I'm going to go ahead and dry brush the heck out of this guy to bring some orange back into him, since he lost some due to the red wash that I gave him. And hopefully that will bring back some color to him that was lost. And what I might actually do is add some yellow to... Actually, I think that is what I'm going to do. This orange is not doing it. I'm going to add some yellow in there to really bring out the fact that he's supposed to be Griff, and in like all of the dang red versus blue bits, Griff really honestly looks yellow. And I know they even make a joke about that because they eventually have a yellow Spartan show up later, which I think is Griff's sister, but he just looks yellow. So I think I'm going to hit him with some of that. I'm also unfortunately not going to be online for much longer because even though you could go to Puppets 4, they have some Master Chief heads. I do too. I have some Master Chief heads that I downloaded. The only real issue is I've already put them together, and I don't think I can take them apart to get the heads off of them. Otherwise, that's something I would have done. I didn't think about it till after I glued the entire thing together, and I don't want to make too much of a mess trying to pull it all apart. So it's just gonna have to be what it'll be. Okay, we're gonna mix these together. More orange, please. More orange, please. Man, that yellow really overrode that orange. Oh my goodness, Griff is going to be Kraft macaroni and cheese. What's my go-to glue? I use Tamiya super thin cement, generally. And in terms of glue, I use Gorilla Glue. Because they both just serve me really well since I started getting really into the hobby. The one thing I need to be better at about is filling mold lines. That's something I've been kind of lazy about, and I don't really do it much. But it definitely makes your models look better when you fill your dang mold lines. But again, that's all going for like artistic level achievements. It's not something that should be required if you're just painting your stuff. See you later, Snow Twig. Thanks for showing up. Have a good night's sleep. But yeah, I use Gorilla Super Glue Gel XL, and I use Tamiya Extra Thin Cement. Those are the two brands that I use for glue. Tamiya is great because I don't feel like I'm wasting too much of it, and the Gorilla Glue, the gel, is just thin enough or thick enough that it tends to stay in the places I want it to stay. So I tend to use that most when I do any kind of gluing. Oh no, the brush is too fat to fit in his lap. Okay. That should be good, I suppose. And now, that's kind of what it feels like. Now, I have to debate on... If I remember right, I made the magenta by mixing brown and red. So I suppose I'm going to have to do that in a second. But I think it still ended up being too dark. We're going to use a lighter brown, and the red that I've got, I'm using a flat brown and rojo denso, and we're going to see how this looks. Especially since Simmons comes across as a very interesting color of red that I don't really know how to replicate. So we're going to try. And to make things absolutely wonderful, I honestly don't remember how I got the coloring I did for the Warthog. So it's going to have to be what it is. I don't really know how I'm going to dry brush it into a lighter color, or if I should for a highlight. Come on, dry out. Dry out, you darn thing. The dry brush will not dry out. Oh, no, that actually looks like it's pretty good. Okay, let's mix this together and hope I get a decent enough magenta. That looks like a decent enough magenta. We're going to go ahead and go with that. That looks like a really, really deep magenta. Is that really what I want to use? Suppose we'll find out. Come on, Simmons. Make you a little more red, I suppose, because you got really dark for some reason. No, I actually think that's still too red. I don't know. I guess we'll find out, because it's a very, very dark red, and that's not quite what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a magenta. But that dark wash I did really did a number on him. Let's see. Is this gonna look okay? It's gonna look fine. Oh, okay. It dries down a whole lot closer to what I expected. Okay. That I can work with. On my screen, it looks like brass. Yeah, it's definitely got that color going on, and that's not quite what I'm going for, but the other problem is that I'm using a very, very, very heavy light, and it's kind of washing everything out. How are you feeling about 10th? It's looking great. I'm in love with 10th edition already. The only thing that's going to put me off of 10th edition is if the rounds still feel like they're taking forever. But everything they've done with 10th so far, I'm really behind. I really like it. I just saw the Thousand Suns faction focus, and I think the way that they're doing spells for Thousand Suns is going to be absolutely fantastic. I think this actually is a pretty good color match for Simmons. Yeah, like I said, this light is really bright, and so it's definitely messing with it. But I'm using like a brown-red mixture. But yeah, I'm very excited for 10th edition. I think the fact that they're making pretty much all of the armies feel very vastly unique to each other, while still keeping the core Warhammer feel, is kind of cool. Like the Admech rad bombing you in the first round. And it has just enough of an effect on you that it really matters without like overwhelming the game. I think that's really cool. I'm really tickled that the Space Marines have by far the most underwhelming, or the Space Marine analogs generally have by far the most underwhelming ones because they are supposed to be the default faction. Everyone's really, really upset about the Death Guard, and I'm not, because it seems like the durability and everything else looks to be fine. So I'm not too afraid of them being absolutely weak, even though they are clearly weakened from 9th edition. The amount of like terror tests and battle shock and all that other stuff that the Chaos Knights are getting, which is my other faction, looks real great. The way they depowered the Votan but still made them dangerous. I'm very, very excited for 10th edition and how it's turning out. I can't wait to get my grubby little mitts on it next month, if I can. I think my store is sold out, and I'm very sad because I have no idea where the heck else I'm going to get it for not $10 million. They actually recently, I think this was the case where they put out a kind of like a media, not a media apology, but like a comment on why things are selling out so quickly right now. And I don't remember if it was just insider rumors or if these were actually true, but basically they've dedicated like 80% of their production resources to producing 10th and the starter box. And they've produced, I think they said 5 times as much 10th edition starter boxes as they did for the entirety of the Indomitus run, which includes the made-to-order stuff, because they're just anticipating such a huge rush. And if that's the case, I hope it works out for them, because they've been having some really bad flack for the current issue with things immediately selling out once it goes up the market. And as much as it sucks to have the scalpers doing what they're doing, I gotta say, I think it's pretty cool that the game is so popular that scalpers can flip it like that instead of, you know, not really being able to move any product, because that just means it's that popular, right? Obviously not great for the consumer, but the product's going to be on the shelves for months afterwards. Blood Angels and Corn are looking amazing. Did they show Blood Angels? I know they showed Corn, or they showed the World Eaters, and I could not be more in love with the World Eaters mechanic. Also, I don't know if I showed you guys this, but check this out. This is a proxy of Lionel Johnson. Oh, speculation, word of mouth. Yeah, I hope so. I hope the Blood Angels look fantastic. So, I printed him because I was trying to print him to the size of Gilliman, and I was wrong. So he was like in this weird place where he was too big to be used for the tabletop and too small to be a display statue. But this is just a black primer and then a white dry brush, or a gray dry brush. So I'm going to reprint him at the right size and paint him alongside all the other really cool models I have. But the guy who did this for free. Like, he accepts donations, but he just straight was like, yeah, go ahead and take it. If you want to donate, cool. Otherwise, I'm just happy to make it. Oh my goodness, you guys are nuts. What's head up here somewhere? I threw it away because I wasn't too happy with how it's with the size. Oh, there went the head. It's long gone. Okay. As an Imperial Fist player, I'm happy to hear that the Marines look like they're going to be good and that everything else looks like it's going to be better. That's kind of where I am. I think I'll go ahead and paint the stuff on his, yeah, I think I need to paint some more black things on him to match up with kind of the black body glove that the Spartans wear. But yeah, I'm just happy that it seems to be a constant flow of really good news. Like I said, the only legitimate complaint that I've really heard is that the Death Guard seemed to have gotten a severe durability nerf. I saw the orcs, and I was already tempted to buy the orcs because I've always wanted to, and now I'm doing it. As soon as I can, I'm going to be buying me some orcs. When I first got into the hobby, one of my friends made the joke that everyone's second favorite army is the orcs, and I got to agree. I love the orcs. I'm excited to play as them. I don't care if they're good or bad. They're just a cool army, and so I can't wait to give them a shot. Painting them is really fun based on my limited exposure with the Orc Commandos from the Kill Team. I am having a glut of enjoyable moments in the 40k. I just got through finishing The End and the Death, and oh my gosh, Dan Abnett is just absolutely blowing it out of the, or like knocking it out of the park. The End and the Death, the first part ends on a very sudden moment that I'm not going to spoil, but I didn't know that, and the audiobook I had of it didn't have the trill of the classical music, the foreboding orchestra, and then Jonathan Keeble being like, "This has been The End and the Death, Part 1, written by Dan Abnett, narrated by Jonathan Keeble." So it like finished the sentence, and then it was just a long pregnant pause, and I was like, "Is that it? Wait, no, you can't end here, no." And I hate to admit this because this is going to make me look like a dumbass, because honestly I am, but I was in the car, right, and I have my phone up as a GPS because I don't trust myself in a lot of places, and I started going to r/40k lore to look at the summary someone posted back when the book first came out to see if that truly was the end of the book as I was driving. Don't ever do that, please. I know you guys are smarter than I am. I luckily was safe because I was at a stoplight and wasn't really moving, but that just is a great way to get yourself killed. So, don't do the dumb like me. And if you do the dumb like me, I'm glad that you're confident enough in your driving skills that you're not going to die. But I am not confident enough in my driving skills that I'm not going to die. So I need to not do that again. But I did find out that that was the end of the book, and I was very upset. Because they ended at, like, almost in the middle of a moment. It's like, you can't do that! That's the second time, actually, that's happened to me, because I finished watching Sanctuary, the new Netflix show about the sumo, and it ends on a moment, like, halfway through a moment. And, like, the character has a big redemption arc, where he becomes a less awful person, and then he gets to fight again, and he's about to face down with the guy that basically beat the sniffles into him, and humbled him. And it cuts right as they collide. It's like, you gotta wait for season 2. And all I could think of was, I don't know if there's gonna be a season 2. This show's probably not gonna be popular, but I need to see what happens. I was very upset. But I think actually it's 6:24 where I am. I think I got far enough with... No, I want to do the gold eyes. I was about to say, I think I got far enough, but I want to do the gold eyes. So, I'm gonna actually get some gold metallic paint. and hit those eyes, and then I'm going to call it done. And that way I can kind of say that I am done with these guys, and it's no longer another unfinished project hovering over my head. Get some of that glorious gold in there. Let's take some of that glorious. I don't know what factions are you guys excited about for 10th edition. I know I'm technically streaming for D&D, but that ended. I'm back to the 40Ks, and I know that Mr. Motorhead, you're excited about Korn and the Blood Angels, which is a great combination of things to be excited for. But looks like I lost everyone. That's okay. But yeah, there's a lot I think to be excited for about 10th edition, and so I'm very excited for 10th edition. Wow, I did lose everyone. That's fine. Let's see, let's go ahead and do this. That gold in there, which unfortunately is going to bleed out a little bit because this is a very chunky gold, and I cannot get that precise with it. That's going to be a-okay. Okay, now the eyes are done. They're ready to go. Okie dokie. Yeah, now's the time I'm going to sign off. Okay, thank you guys for joining me. I do appreciate y'all being here. Finished the D&D stuff. Glad to be done. I think I'm done with the Warthog for now. If I can think of anything else to do with it, I will. But otherwise, I think he looks pretty good. I don't know what I'm going to paint next. I might go back to doing the Einherjar champion and making him look nice and pretty. But I guess I'll find out later. Have a great rest of the day, guys, for anyone who's still here. And I hope you all have a good evening. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.